responsibility for it. You've got to take responsibility for your own vindictiveness and hate, because they can't learn, people learn most from watching another person and how they function. That has been one of the best models of learning, not from what is said. I remember one group where the woman would make just cursory visits, but was involved in another profession. And there was a lot of evaluation. I felt I wanted to get rid of her. I wanted to hurt her. I wanted to do something. Finally, I said, "You're out." And explained why. She never wanted to have anything to do with me again. But facing that, when you talk about guilt, the unconscious guilt of telling somebody in a group that you're not there for life, telling a patient that I think we have gone as far as we can,
Right.
and that we should terminate. I have had the biggest struggles with that, because I have felt like a cad telling somebody, leave. You got as much as I can give you. Go. Well, this has been a remarkable kind of struggle for me to face that part of separation, part of being able to find your own way, is to be able to deal with that hostility and that aggression, and to be able to kind of know when you've had enough and you are ready to tell somebody, go and find now another direction. It's been a most remarkable learning. And I will also add about guilt, since you brought it up. It has been one of the most fascinating areas of study, because there are God knows how many levels of guilt. And the dynamics of guilt are so complex and on so many different levels that they have become part of a learning experience for myself in ways of learning. It used to be that my uncle taught me that guilt had to do with omnipotence. Guilt had to do with the fear of your own power. And that is true in some instances. And now I have learned so many other understandings of what guilt can be. Starting at very early, you mentioned about the baby who must kill themselves in order to make amends. The reparations that go on in guilt. It has been a most fascinating area of study. The one who taught me most about it was my uncle. Again, I go to my friend Alan, who we both studied from the same person. And we learned a lot from him, but it wasn't everything. And that is so sad to find out that a teacher isn't everything, that they don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. You would love to. You would love to be very wise, and you're not. And frankly, that's very, very disappointing.
Follow up on your point about guilt, the connection to something you made before, which I think right now, as I'm studying right, is very important. That the issue of the connection of the unconscious of the patient, the unconscious of it's in that process that the curative process can really begin, when that connection is made.
Well, I'll give you another way of looking at it, since I've been called provocative. And that is, one way of joining and understanding a person is through hate. And that sometimes hate is a kind of pathway into understanding and love. And that love is just not enough. That you gotta kind of understand that hate had its place. And one of the examples I give is about creativity. And sometimes creativity can go wrong, way wrong. In a article that just came out in May, Sandy, what the hell is the name of the journal? Remember?
It says it on that piece.
Psychoanalytic inquiry.
That's right.
It's right here.
Psychoanalytic inquiry.
And where do I get most of my insight in that article? From my wife and her story. And what it was is creativity gone wrong. That there's a crow that builds up a big mountain because he wants to kill off these little babies. And there's where creativity can go wrong. And there is always, I think, a struggle between good and evil. I can share with you that I get sometimes most of my insights with watching my wife train her cats. So,
You type it once and say something.
what?
Can I say something? Can I say
Can I stop you?
Love is a very funny word. And love is a word that gets bandied about. And in therapeutic language, or in I do healing work, in healing language, the meaning of love is incorporates hate. Because the meaning of love is really, in its deepest way, for me, the place where you are accepting, where you are not judging, and you can accept the hate because the hate is accepting that place inside yourself which needs to express itself and needs to be accepted, and thereby it's an act of love. And so it's a very, it's a hard word. It's a hard word to use. I define it very clearly in my own work of acceptance and non-judgment, because out of that comes the ability to know that the acceptance of anger and hate, etc., is really, and you see it with young children, that if the parent can really accept them, and kids know how to be furious one minute and not the next, if the parent can accept that instead of closing it, how can you hate that person? How can you throw that type of tantrum? Instead of understanding that that's an expression of self. And that's where the love comes, because you understand it as an expression of self. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in about love.
Guys, thank you. The opposite of love is not hatred, it's indifference.
Yes, right.
And, that's one of the reasons that we have to allow our patients to hate us and allow ourselves to feel the hatred we have it doesn't mean anything.
Anybody else before we close? Yes, sir.
A real quick one, moment on guilt. When I was in Mildred Lerner's class 1,000 years ago, she quoted Reich as saying, he often asked his patients, if you didn't feel guilt, what would you feel? And the answer was inevitably anger. It was very interesting, I thought.
It's interesting to me that we're talking about guilt. I wonder what
Yes,
the group dynamics
I'm
process
wondering
is
too.
that comes to that. What I associate too is a version of what Art said. I feel extraordinarily fortunate to have been able to live my life in a profession that is always interesting. Even, when you have a patient who's boring, you get interested in why you're bored and you learn something about that. It's a profession you can grow old in, and it's a profession that's always stimulating. It's a profession in which you can cut down on your hours if you want to. You have some professional control. And I'm very aware that maybe 1/10 of 1% of the people in the world have anything like this degree of pleasure in their calling. And I wonder if that's part of what we're honoring today as our profession, as a profession that makes that possible. And some guilt comes with that.
Good point.
Yes.
Art, I know your feelings about this. I'm just curious, Nancy, any thoughts you have about the field evolving from the head on up to incorporate more of the body?
Head on up, evolving.
In other words, psychoanalysis got very intellectualized and
Pretty cognitive,
lost the connection with the full body experience.
which ironically is more Freudian with that.
Right. I
Well,
think
I have the devil of the time with people in my groups because the overwhelming majority of analysts are obsessional in nature. They have learned to think and understand before they can feel. They are not about to let something confusing come over their body without trying to categorize it or figure it out. And I haven't yet come to any conclusion of how to be a better teacher in this. I have people walk like the patient, talk like the patient, I have people dialogue all about it. But analysts get a tremendous kick out of figuring something out of figuring out the dynamics, which don't mean shit when you want to come down to it in terms of helping somebody. If anything, it can be the biggest defense going, because you really don't know until after the experience, not before the experience. So to answer you, I think for me it's been a tremendous conflict of how to kind of make and help train people to think experientially, to feel experientially, and then put it into a cognitive framework. Not that I'm anti-cognitive, but you gotta use your sensation and then your affects, which is the way the brain works, to finally go up to the frontal lobe. Well, that's the way the brain works. But damn it, it is a hard thing to change that. That's been the history and problem, I think, of psychoanalysis. That it is highly cognitive. They want to understand before they apprehend.
And Art, that's one of the things that Gestalt techniques bring.
Yeah, I was going to say there have been efforts to correct for this again and again. The more contemporary effort is somatic experiencing, for example,
Right.
or Les Greenberg's mindfulness,
Right.
or Diana Foch's work, or Les Greenberg's. It was a sort of combination of Diana Foch and Gestalt. experience, of affective experience. You see the practice of this. But I find myself identifying with the problem because although I identified with Theodore Reich because he talked about apperceiving something, really he was talking about right brain process, that a song would go through his head and that would be how he would understand what was going on between him and the patient. And I recognized that in myself, that art is very visual. I am very auditory. And I used to watch Art responding to a presentation and he would suddenly report a visual experience, like I'm having this image of a China doll now. I would be hearing a jazz standard and a particular phrase with the music. So I wanted to expand that. That's one of the reasons I went to him as a supervisor. I wanted to expand the experience of art more. But I think I'm not untypical of analysts in that when I'm at my worst, probably my best qualities as a teacher are my worst qualities as an analyst. I get intellectually interested in what the patient is saying. And I start theorizing about it, and I lose contact with my own gut and then contact with theirs. And I think we're all in a constant struggle with that.
And I guess my question is twofold, because it's how do we tap into that in ourselves as analysts, but how do we also, and this is the Pat Ogden and Alan Shore, the work, I'm curious to your thoughts about how there can be potential integration of the body in the consulting room as a way of helping someone have yet another form of expression.
Well, I think people have to integrate the way they do that with their own personality and what feels right to them. I don't feel comfortable touching patients usually, but I will, as I've evolved as a therapist, I find myself very often asking them, what are you feeling and where are you experiencing that in your body?
Right.
And what's your image of that in your body? And I noticed you're clenching your fist now. Tell me about what they're saying. I think over time we integrate that aspect of it. I love Alan Shore's work, and I've also been fascinated by Jaak Panksepp's work on play and how much kids need rough and tumble play. Jaak Panksepp. And I think we are, this is kind of a combination of political again, but it interests me what is going to happen to this culture. Panksepp's work shows that mammals need rough and tumble play. If you deprive them of it on Tuesday, they'll do twice as much of it on Wednesday. And they need this. He's sort of developed a new drive theory, really. And he has evidence, and one of the things that is developing when the animals do that, they can focus more, they can concentrate more, they have more sense of future orientation. And he's suggested that we're seeing so much ADD and ADHD because we are in a culture where kids aren't having the rough and tumble play or the playing with mud. They're being scheduled, they're being parked in front of computer terminals. And so I've been thinking about that. You know, we're a culture in which, how do we play? Most traditional cultures sing together, dance together, play sports together, and we're a spectator culture. And what does it do to us psychologically?
But in that light, you could also argue that we're a sitting profession, and sometimes even you don't have to touch your patients, but you can stand up. And sometimes other things get activated.
Well, one of the things that I have found very useful is role playing. And those who have been in my groups have certainly seen me be a nut job. And that is that I will say things as a therapist or as a patient that are outlandish and provocative, primitive, and what have you. The whole group breaks up. You can feel the release of tension, and that certainly these are not things that are easily or would say to your patient. But the problem that I have found in supervision is that when I am able to speak strictly from my id, boy, everybody lightens up. There is fire going on. But in a number of different groups I've worked in, the prohibition against that is so great that I become inhibited being a nut. And that I become much more of a confining, thoughtful supervisor because I feel that more in the group that says, watch out, behave yourself. It is the most interesting thing how some groups I'm able to let it all hang out, and other groups I can't. And a lot of it has to do, well, I'm sure me, and what I give the group and what the group gives me. And people are different, just as well as you will find patients who are killers of the unconscious, who won't let the unconscious come. And it takes a certain kind of risk to fight that, to fight the killer that says, be good, be religious, watch yourself. Don't get out of line. And so occasionally I let that person come out, and it's funny, it's provocative, it's interactive, and usually that comes out in a group, by the way, that laughs with each other. If you could laugh with each other, things are not so seriously. And I could tell that from a group when they walk out